You're listening to Packers Talk Network.
You're listening to No Huddle Radio on the Packers Talk Radio Network, your home for in-depth and thoughtful Packers analysis. I'm your host, Gil Martin. My co-host is my good friend, Tien. In addition to this show, I write for the PackersPost.com and Cheesehead TV. Sean was a TV sportscaster in Minnesota. We're here to talk Packers because you're all here for one thing, and that's a love for Green Bay football. Sean, 2 down, 1 to go on preseason. Cuts are literally about a week away. We're getting down to the nitty-gritty here.
Preseason finale happening at Lambeau Field, and that's a good time to talk about our sponsor. This show and all Packers Talk podcasts are sponsored by Wisconsin's own Ticket King, located right across the street from beautiful Lambeau Field for close to 35 years. TheTicketKing.com has been providing Packers tickets to Packer fans across the globe. They set the prices to beat the big sites, and they even offer parking in their lot. That's a big plus. Currently, they say the best deals are for the Texans and Panthers games coming up this regular season. To find direct links to tickets for those games or any others, go to PackersTalk.com/tickets. Please support this local Wisconsin business and not the national ticket giants. And Gil, there's a lot to support with the Packers. There's a lot of reason to support the Packers last week in Denver. A nice 33-13 win in the Mile High City. In the grand scheme of things, doesn't really mean much, but man, there were a lot of positives to take away from that, Gil. More positives than negatives, in my opinion.
Yeah, no question. It was a welcome performance, especially after the struggles, especially offensively against Pittsburgh. And just good to see the units overall play better. And I'll say this, my biggest takeaway, more than anything else, special teams look different this year.
Oh, my gosh, they do. Obviously, Pierre Strong's 68-yard kick return was a really, really nice thing to see. But just every phase of special teams just looks crisp. It looks clean. It looks like guys know what they're doing. They know their responsibilities. I feel like too many times there was miscommunication, or guys just didn't really know their role or how to fill their lanes necessarily. It was a disaster. It's been a disaster most of our lives, I feel like, Gil, for special teams in general. But special teams is clean. Cam Akord's got a good thing going. Let's just hope that carries over to the regular season and then the playoffs and beyond, hopefully from there. But speaking of the offense, though, I just want to stay there for a little bit, Gil. Marshawn Lloyd is going to be a weapon out of the backfield in the passing game.
Yeah, that was a really nice touchdown pass that he caught. And I mean, you still see some rust there when he's trying to cut. He's still dancing a little too much, I think, when he gets to a hole. In college, you can get away with that just because you're a little faster than some of your opponents. But in the NFL, you find the hole, you hit the hole, you go through the hole. If you dance, you're going to get tackled. But boy, does he have a gear and a style of running that this team did not have when he was on the shelf.
You wonder with how much of a threat he is in the passing game, where he could be like a Darren Sproles type for you, a little bit bigger Darren Sproles type for you. Just seeing the way he moves in the passing game, Gil. And I wonder because running-wise, vision-wise, it just doesn't seem like it's quite clicking right now. And essentially, you got to treat him like he's a rookie right now because he's barely played meaningful NFL snaps, dealing with injuries his first 2 years out of college. Where do you see Marshawn Lloyd possibly being used more as a receiver than maybe a runner out of the backfield?
I think it'll be somewhere in between. I think we'll see more receiving opportunities early. So until he gets that rhythm back to running, because look, as you said, for 2 years, he played in one regular season game. The reps haven't been there. And so much of running is instinctual. You're not even thinking about it. Your body just has to react. Mm-hmm. And you got to get that muscle memory going back again. And you've got to get that instinct back. So getting him the ball in space early on, I think, is sort of a shortcut to making him effective, getting those instincts back. And then eventually I think we'll see more of him carrying the football.
Which is why I think he would be excellent in more of a receiving, being more of a receiving back because of his ability to create in space. His ability to win in space is what is so intriguing about Marshawn Lloyd. They don't really have that in any other back on this team right now. He brings a totally different dimension. And you wonder what the Packers maybe do where they like to play multiple running backs in packages. Do you see Chris Brooks, on a third down, Chris Brooks being your pass protector, Marshawn Lloyd being an extra receiver out of the backfield, a guy you could flex out? I just feel like watching him, and when he scored that touchdown on that Texas route, Gil, I was like, man, that reminds me of Sproles. That reminds me of Darren Sproles, a guy I always feared whenever the Packers played. I wanted him to be a Packer for so long with Aaron Rodgers. That would have been so during his prime. And I feel like they got a little bit something there in the passing game where I'm not saying he's going to be Darren Sproles, but the potential is certainly there.
Yeah, he certainly looked very good. And if you remember, in the preseason game, I think it was against Cleveland a year ago, he caught a wheel route that really was pretty down the sideline. So he is a weapon as a receiver. And, having a play caller like Matt LaFleur, it's going to be interesting to see how effectively LaFleur incorporates Lloyd into the passing game. And again, you're kind of walking that line. You want to use him, but you don't want to overuse him, especially early on. So it will be very interesting to see how this plays out.
I will say with the offense from that second game, 3 things I just want to say real quick that also stood out. I think Jordan Love's footwork definitely looked improved. He looked efficient. And that's something that he has said that he worked on a lot this offseason to improve. No more of those throws off the back of his, 1 foot and everything. He may have 1 or 2 there in the future, but it seems like he's putting a lot more forward. I think Jordan Morgan's definitely the guy at left tackle. He's a guy who I don't even want to see play in the preseason finale. I think he's got that locked down.
Right.
And then Kyle McCord's making a serious case for backup quarterback. I don't know if he's gonna take that job from Tyrod Taylor, but he's making that discussion interesting.
He is. He has played well. He looks good. But again, it's preseason. You got to take it with a grain of salt. Neither the offense that he's running nor the defense he's opposing have full game plans in place. He's playing with second, third string, players around him, and he's playing against second and third string guys. And it's a whole different ball game when the coaches are blitzing and doing all the things they can to stop someone rather than saying, oh, I want to take a look at how this guy looks at safety as opposed to cornerback. Can this guy play the slot? This is a whole different situation. So I'm happy with Kyle McCord. He is making quite a case for himself, but I don't know if I'm ready to anoint him as the backup over Tyrod Taylor, who has been in the NFL since McCord was probably in nursery school.
I'll be honest that I want Tyrod Taylor as the backup. I mean, I think you know what you're getting there. You're not getting it. It's a downgrade from Malik Willis, no matter what's going to happen. And
most backups are.
And we know that. And most backups are for sure. Malik Willis was a special kind of backup in Green Bay the last couple of years. But all I think is when the Packers kept Joe Callahan on the initial 53-man roster because he had such a strong camp because they didn't want anyone else to claim him. And I wonder if the Packers, if they try to pull something like that going into cutdowns where if they fear that McCord may get claimed by another team for their 53-man roster, or if he's just like, you know what, I'm going to go be on a practice squad elsewhere where I may have a better pathway to being a prominent player on a team and being a key factor. So you got to think that the Packers, that's possibly on their mind because he's putting a lot of good tape out there.
He has. And I wonder how much Tyrod Taylor plays in the preseason finale and how much McCord plays in the preseason finale. That will be interesting to see. You don't want to risk injury to either one, obviously, but I think it'll tell us a little something about how the coaching staff is viewing this competition.
And on the defensive side of the ball, Gil, I'm just going to note a few things that stood out to me in this second preseason game. And again, you hope this transfers over to when real football is being played, when regular season ball is being played. I think the Packers nailed it with Chris McClellan in round 3. I don't know about you, but man, that dude can move, and he's a big boy, and he knows how to play defensive tackle.
He does, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of what he can do. I think he's going to be a very solid player. How much playing time he'll get as a rookie remains to be seen, but I am optimistic about his potential. One thing that concerned me, though, overall, the pass rush was not getting home, especially early on.
No, that's definitely troubling. And you wonder, with the Arizona Cardinals coming in for joint practices, there's a guy by the name of Josh Sweat who has a previous connection with Jonathan Gannon, who he supposedly wants out of Arizona. Arizona doesn't want to move him. He did just get activated off the PUP list going into joint practices this week. I don't know. Maybe something's brewing right there, Gil, and maybe there's some reinforcements on the way. Another note, though, from that game, too, the Packers are going to have a hard time deciding what to do with Anthony Campbell and safety Mark Perry, because those guys just continue to make plays.
They do, and it's great to see. Campbell kind of got a little bit shaken up in the first preseason game, but thankfully it wasn't anything serious. Perry got a little shaken up also and came back, so that was a relief. But, Perry with the big INT, that was great to see. And, you're looking at the numbers, those two guys, I'll even tie it all together. You can't keep 3 quarterbacks and keep both of those guys.
No, not at all. Absolutely not. That's going to be a big discussion, you feel like, in the front office, in the coaches room, where do we keep 3 quarterbacks, or do we risk it with 2 and hope that McCord clears waivers? That's what you got to mess with right there. Anthony Campbell, though, he is making a serious case for a defensive tackle job. And then Mark Perry, I honestly think right now, the way Mark Perry has been playing this preseason, the way he's performed in camp, I think he's going to earn a spot on the 53-man roster over Catano Ladapo.
I think he's going to earn a spot for sure. And, another guy who I think really did a lot to earn a spot was Kamal Haddon, who just played outstanding and showed that he can do the slot thing if called upon. I think we'll see more of both of those guys against the Cardinals, and that'll be, 2 players you need to watch because they're fighting for, spots in the lineup and maybe even spots on the roster.
And Gil, we got to, before we wrap up with the preseason game 2 reactions, Trace Mack was the star again, man. And he had 4 field goal attempts. He made all of them. He had 3 extra point attempts. He made all of them. I think the Packers got their kicker for the time being.
Looks pretty good, right? All that early fear. Oh no, he's having trouble with the wind and Lambeau and all of that. Look, I want to see him do it at Lambeau this Friday. I want to see how he does there. But certainly the leg strength is unquestioned, and he's off to a great start.
It is outstanding. I know, obviously, he had altitude, and his kicks look like nothing compared to Harrison Butker down in Kansas City, nailing a 69-yard field goal in the preseason game a few days ago. But it just looks smooth. It looks strong. And again, it's like, I think that's got to be Cam McCord putting his fingerprints all over these special teams units, because he was the guy who was saying right away, where it's like, hey, we're messing with different placements and holdings and everything like that to see what works for Trace Mack. Again, it's like a baseball player in spring training being told, like, only look at hitting sliders today, or a pitcher being told only throw fastballs today. It's like it's very clear that they were training specific things in practices, and then when it gets to the game moments, it's doing what's been working best, and whatever's working, just don't mess with it. Don't mess with a good thing right now, Packers.
That's it. So far, so good. And boy, it would be nice to have a reliable kicker. And again, in this day and age with the new kickoff rules, you only need 1 first down to get into field goal range. If you're starting at the 35 and you gain 15 yards, that's a 68-yard field goal. Trace Mack might make one of those. That's it's kind of silly almost the way they set it up, where every drive you're almost expected to score, but that's where we're at in the modern NFL.
Hey, they want the kick return. They're getting it. They're getting the kick return back in the game. And I mean, the Packers, they were rumored to be involved with Brandon Aubrey talks last year in free agency, and they clearly want a guy who could kick some 60-yard bombs moving forward. It looks like Trace Mack for now is that guy. Now, going into this final week of the preseason, the Packers hosting a few joint practices with the Arizona Cardinals this week. Gil, what do we want to get accomplished in joint practice this week? Outside of, we obviously don't want to see any serious injuries, not only for the Packers, but for the Cardinals. It's just not good for the game in general. No serious, impactful injuries. Outside of that, what do you want to see get accomplished?
Well, I mean, let's start with the basics. A lot of the starters are not going to play in the final preseason game. Mm-hmm. So Jordan Love, get your work in now. Josh Jacobs, get your work in now. I think some of the offensive linemen will play on Friday night, but because there are some jobs at stake, and we'll definitely be keeping an eye on some of those battles. But, you know, some of the wide receivers, I don't expect to see a lot of, you know, Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, and Matthew Golden on Friday night. Let these guys get their reps against live opponents who are not the same guys they've been lining up against every day for the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, I want to see how the Packers, their interior O-line obviously looks to be a problem right now. It looks to be a big issue and a big weakness on that offense. I want to see how they can handle a different offensive line in a practice setting. Who's going to win those battles? I want to see the corners outside of, you know, Brandon Cisse included, but these corners who are all up for the number 2 job, presumably behind Brandon Cisse. How do they match up with these Arizona receivers? I just want to see how these battles end up going. The Packers have the edge, or the Cardinals have the edge. Remember, this is a Cardinals team. Jonathan Gannon was the head coach of this Cardinals team for the previous 3 years. They lost so many games by within 6 points. They were in every single game. I don't think Arizona's as bad of a team as people think. So if people are saying like, oh my gosh, like they're cooking us at camp or anything like that, again, just don't take it seriously. It's just Arizona. This is a team that the Packers edged by 3 points last year, right? So this is a team that has a lot of talent. They're in rebuilding mode. They don't really have an answer at quarterback long term, possibly Carson Beck there, but let's just see how the matchups go in those individual matchup drills. That's what I'm looking forward to. And don't fight either. No fights.
See, I disagree with don't fight. I don't want any serious fights, but I want to see a little passion.
Yeah, no punches.
No punches. But I want to see a little. I want to see a little passion. I want to see a little. I want to see these guys care. And you know, we have not had a lot of reported fights in practice. Usually, there's always a couple of them over the. What do we have? One so far, maybe?
Well, we had one the other day. Well, right. Barron Sorrell and Matthew Golden got into it. Former teammates at Texas. They got into it, and then it created a whole brouhaha. And those guys are saying, like, we need to hit someone else, you know?
Right. But that was really like the first big one that we've heard about. And I just want to see a little more of that passion. I don't want anyone to get hurt. I don't want to see any punches thrown. But I want to see a little more juice.
I remember Ted Thompson saying, like, you throw a punch, that's the dumbest thing you could do because you could break a hand, you could break a thumb, someone could get if players are wearing helmets, they're going to be okay if they're getting the punch thrown at. It's usually the guy who's throwing the punch that's going to get hurt, and something stupid's going to happen. So nothing stupid. Keep your cool, keep your calm, all that stuff, and just make progress. Just get better this week with another team in town. And the Packers will host Arizona in the preseason finale on Friday at Lambeau Field at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. And Gil, obviously, we talked about we're not going to see Jordan Love. We're not going to probably see Christian Watson or Josh Jacobs or Jaden Reed. Or we're not going to see Jordan Morgan, I would think, Zach Bako, Bawele, all these other superstars on the Packers we're not going to see. But there are a lot of guys who are fighting for jobs and a lot of guys who there's a lot of position battles where the Packers are trying to figure out what to do going into week 1 in Minnesota. Which Packers is this preseason finale most critical for?
Well, on offense, I'm looking at 2 position areas. Number 1 is guard, which to me, we still don't know how ready Aaron Banks is going to be. And we still don't know who the starting guard is going to be on the right side, even if Aaron Banks does start on the left side. So we've got to figure that out. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on Burton and on
Jacob Monk,
and just to see where they line up, who they line up with, how many reps they get. That to me is definitely something I want to keep an eye on. And then the other position group to me is tight end.
Backup tight end.
After Tucker Kraft, who's not going to play, and Josh Wiley, who will probably play a little bit. I don't know if the third tight end is on the roster right now or not. Drake Dabney has made kind of a push for that spot, but I don't think he's got it wrapped up. Seeing if any of those candidates can step forward and claim that job, or whether or not Brian Gutekunst is scouring the waiver wire or making a trade before week 1 to add depth at tight end, because Luke Musgrave may not be ready anytime soon.
I could see Luke Musgrave being on season-ending IR. Again, it's like the Packers. I just think A.J. Dillon a couple of years ago were head, neck, and heart. If it's serious enough, they just don't. The Packers don't want to risk it, and they should. It's just those
rightfully so. Yes.
Those are extremely. You got to be extremely careful with those kind of injuries. So I totally understand if Luke Musgrave gets placed on season. I'm anticipating that if Luke Musgrave is actually on the roster, if he plays at all this year with a neck injury so far that he's dealing with in camp, I would be very surprised. I'm assuming that he's not playing this year.
Likewise.
You talk about that backup tight end spot, though, where, Josh Wiley and Drake Dabney, this is their night, man, coming up on Friday, because they want to show the Packers, like, hey, you don't need to go get someone. Right. We're good. Like, we're good behind. We can handle it behind Tucker Kraft. But I do think, and when we did our initial 53-man roster predictions in July, Gil, I did say I think tight end's going to be a third tight end is going to be someone from the outside. I really do.
How much bad luck have they had? Like, they sign 2 players, and then within a week, they both get hurt. They have to bring in 2 more. One of them gets hurt. It's been a rotating door, revolving door of depth tight ends. And, you just want someone to even get a chance to show what they can do.
It's only going to help Tucker Kraft in contract negotiations, I'll tell you that. But I wonder with the interior line, though, because speaking of the offense and just staying there for a little bit, where the guard spots, left guard and right guard, is still up for grabs. It's not solidified yet. Do you keep Sean Ryan in there? Because Sean Ryan he's your center. Do you keep Sean Ryan in there at center so those guys can rotate and the Packers can get some film to see how they play next to Sean Ryan and how they play together as an interior unit? Or do you not play Sean Ryan and you rotate other guys, backups at center? It's very interesting because you don't want to lose your starting center right away in a meaningless preseason finale, but you want to see who he works best with as well. I mean, I feel like the joint practices are going to be best for that, but it may be good in a game-like setting too. You know
what I would do? I would do 2 series with Sean Ryan, one with Monk, and then, each guy gets 1 shot, one with Burton, one with Monk. And then I would start rotating the backups in, although Monk is one of those backups and Burton is one of those backups. So you sort of have to figure that into the equation as well. But, let them battle it out at guard, but 1 series with Ryan each, and then let the backups do their thing.
I think another sneaky area where it's going to be critical on the offense is Savion Williams. He only played a couple snaps in Denver, and we don't know if it was injury related or if it was just not earning enough snaps, but Will Shepherd played well in the last preseason game. Isaiah Nayers had a pretty good preseason overall. Savion Williams may be playing for his job, and that would be very surprising, but the writing's kind of on the wall where I don't know if the Packers are very confident in him, Gil, and this game may be very critical for his future in Green Bay.
I think he's going to be on the roster. I think he will be the number 4 receiver on the depth chart, but he does need to have a strong finish to camp. Of that, there's very little doubt.
Yeah, and then also like in line with the tight end battle, Running back, you got to think the Packers are probably going to go outside. And Arizona's kind of the perfect team to be here be in Green Bay for joint practices because they have a bunch of running backs on that roster, a bunch of quality backs. And they drafted the kid from Notre Dame, Jeremiah Love, 3rd overall, where they may have a guy or two available. The Packers are going to get a look. So Pierre Strong, Damian Martinez, Jaden Nixon, this preseason finale is just as important for them as well as the backup tight end group too. What about defensively, Gil, and special teams? Who is this really critical, this preseason finale for on those?
Well, we talked about Anthony Campbell and Mark Perry. I think you start with those guys more than anybody else. Keyshawn Nixon, still need to see him. I want to see the guy make some tackles. I mean, it's more than anything else. I just wanted to show that he cares enough to make a tackle. There's no doubt in my mind that he's good enough to be a starting cornerback in this league. He's proven that much. Maybe not a number 1, but certainly a solid number 2. But, right now, Jonathan Gannon has re-emphasized, and Matt LaFleur as well, we want our corners to be able to tackle. He said it publicly. When does the message sink in? I guess it's my rhetorical question when it comes to Keyshawn Nixon.
Do you play Brandon Cisse at all on Friday? Because honestly, I wouldn't.
No, I would not. If I do, it would be one series just to get him out there. But why at this point? Yeah. I think he's shown what he needs to show. He's one starter. And then the question is who starts opposite him.
He's wired the right way, man. And he is, I think for being only 21 years old, he is so mature and he is so serious about being a good football player. You hear his interviews and it's just in the locker room after practices and they're like, oh yeah, he made a nice play there. He's like, oh, no, I gotta be better though. It's like, it wasn't as clean as it should be. It's like, that's good. Like nothing is good enough for him. And I hope he keeps that mindset because he's going to be playing a lot of football for the Green Bay Packers if he just always continues to try to get better. He's a young guy and maybe his best football is still ahead of him. The Packers love to draft young guys, like really, really young guys who feel like their best football is ahead of them. Maybe that's going to be the case for Brandon Cisse. Now, Gil, I will say one more player who this preseason finale is most critical for. It's in the field goal operation, but it's not Trace Mack. It's not Daniel Whalen as the holder. It's long snapper Cal Adamitis. He seems to be having a good preseason, and it seems like there's a good rapport with him and Whalen and Trace Mack. If the field goal operation is smooth and clean again, do you consider keeping him over Matt Orzech, who's under contract? That's because I wouldn't mess with a good thing, and I may roll with that.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something that Gutekunst and the coaching staff will have to consider. Maybe one of the early important decisions that Cam Acord has to make as special teams coordinator. Yeah,
that's going to be interesting because I think Trace Mack his job is locked down, and hey, he's a kicker. Get him as many kicks as possible again, especially at Lambeau. I want to see how he kicks at Lambeau. He handled the altitude so well in Denver. I mean, the altitude is a kicker's best friend out there, but the kicks were really good. They were strong. It was just a smooth, clean operation. I want to see special teams continue to build. Obviously, Mark Perry and Anthony Campbell, if those guys keep making plays, it feels like Aaron Mosby a couple of years ago where you had to put him on your initial 53-man roster because he was just so damn good in the preseason. And if Mark Perry and Anthony Campbell keep making plays, Packers have no choice but to keep those guys.
Yeah, and that's a good problem to have.
Oh, for sure. So, Gil, before we wrap up with some trivia, what articles do you have coming up online for the Packers Post and Cheesehead TV as we enter the finale for the preseason and we are getting closer to roster cutdowns?
Well, over at the Packers Post, I talked about Kyle McCord and the impression that he made in the first 2 preseason games and in training camp so far. And over at Cheesehead at the end of last week on Saturday, I took a look at the running back situation and, whether or not Brian Gutekunst is going to have to go outside of the organization to address all the uncertainty between Josh Jacobs' availability, Marshawn Lloyd's injury history, whether Chris Brooks is good enough to be a number 2, let alone a number 3. I think there's a lot of questions there.
I think the Packers really want Kyle McCord to be on their practice squad, but I really do think if he has another strong performance, I think there's a chance they put him on the initial 53 where they cut him then the next day, and then they just put him on the practice squad. And
right.
Remember, they let go of Kyron Drones right away. He looked lost in that first preseason game, and I think the Packers are like, yeah, it's McCord or it's bust. Yeah, McCord or bust. It's not going to be anything else. So very intriguing to see what happens moving forward. We had our initial 53-man roster predictions in July. They're not even going to be close to what's actually going to happen. You know that, Gil, because they don't listen to us.
Things change. Things change, and they definitely did.
They don't listen to us, which is a good thing, but they don't listen to us in general. How about some trivia?
Let's do it.
Well, a lot of eyes, they're looking at Green Bay this week, where brothers and NFL head coaches Matt and Mike LaFleur's Packers and Cardinals, respectively, are involved in joint practices this week. It's also a family reunion for another set of brothers. Gil, at joint practices this week in Green Bay, which players from both teams are also related to each other?
Oh, wow.
You should know this.
I should know this.
You should.
Okay. Yeah, I can't say I know the Cardinals roster in depth as well as...
I'll give you a hint. Think Packers, coach's favorite. What are the coach's favorites?
One of the coach's favorites.
On the offense, especially. The offense specifically.
Okay. No, I'm drawing a blank on this one.
Okay. Wide receiver?
Bo Melton.
Yep.
Yeah.
And his brother?
We wanted to draft him, too. I remember that.
Yep. That Packers wide receiver, Bo Melton. Cardinals cornerback, Max Melton. Bo's entering his 4th season with the Packers. Probably going to make the roster just because that's Matt LaFleur's guy, man. Max Melton is entering his 3rd season with the Cardinals. So, yeah, big family reunion there. And then they have a J Love. We have a J Love, but they're not related. And did you see that tweet from a few weeks ago where it said Coach LaFleur not worried about Love's injury or something like that? It's like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a nightmare. Like, and you can't say M LaFleur and J Love because that's right. The same initials for the Cardinals.
Yeah, that doesn't help, and it scared a lot of people. I know that.
Oh yeah, I saw that. I was like, what? What do you? And it was like, oh wait, hold on.
Exhale. Take
Mike
a deep
LaFleur, breath. Jeremiah Love. Take a deep breath, big man. Okay, there we go. Okay, so it's gonna drive us nuts. Definitely in the future, moving forward, Gil.
Yeah, but hey, no problem. We'll figure it out. It'll take us an extra 5 seconds, and we'll be fine. So,
all right. Packers hosted the Cardinals preseason finale on Friday at Lambeau Field, 8 Eastern in Gil's area, 7 Central. Here, Gil, send us out, and what we're gonna have by this time, or by next time we record, we're gonna have the initial 53-man roster, won't we?
Unbelievable. Time does fly.
Sure does.
Well, that's it for today. We'll be right back here next week. Follow us on Twitter @GBPackers. Stay up to date on all things Packers, or to ask us questions. Or you can email us at gbpackerssean@gmail.com. Make sure you're subscribed to Packers Talk on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Big thanks to PackersTalk.com for powering our show, and thank you for listening. Until next time, go Pack Go.
Go Pack Go.